Not all debt is bad, but the wrong kind can quietly destroy your financial future. Welcome to The Money Architect. If you've ever felt confused about debt, you're not alone. Most people are told two completely different things at the same time. One side says, avoid all debt at all costs. The other side says, use debt to build wealth. Both are partially right, and that's exactly why people get stuck. Because the truth sits in the middle. Debt is not the problem. Misusing debt is. And right now, that distinction matters more than ever. Credit card interest rates are sitting at levels we haven't seen before. That means one bad decision doesn't just cost you a little more. It compounds into something much bigger over time. So, if you don't have a clear system for how to think about debt, you're not just guessing. You're paying for that guess every single month. Let's break this down in a way that actually works. Start with this. Good debt moves you forward. Bad debt pulls you backward. Simple. But we need to go deeper. Good debt is typically tied to something that creates value over time. It might increase your income. It might grow in value. Or it might position you better financially in the future. Bad debt does none of that. It drains your cash flow, often comes with high interest, and usually funds things that don't last. Here's the key idea most people miss. Debt is not defined by what it is called. It's defined by what it does to your financial life. Same type of debt, completely different outcomes depending on how you use it. Let's make that real. Take a mortgage. On the surface, it's a large amount of debt. But what are you getting in return? You're buying an asset, something that can appreciate over time. At the same time, every payment builds equity. You're increasing your ownership in that asset. That's what puts it in the good debt category. But here's where people get tripped up. If you stretch your budget too far, if your payment eats up too much of your income, that same mortgage starts acting like bad debt. Now it's restricting your ability to save. It's limiting your flexibility. It's creating pressure. Same loan, different outcome. Now think about student loans. If you borrow to develop a skill that increases your earning power, that can be a strong investment. You take on debt today to earn more tomorrow. But if there's no clear connection between what you're studying and how you're going to earn, now the equation changes. You still have the debt, but the return isn't there. And that's where things break. Let's flip it. Credit cards. Used correctly, they're just a tool. You spend, you pay it off, no interest, no issue. But the moment you start carrying a balance, everything changes. Now you're paying high interest on something that is already losing value. You bought it, you used it, and now you're still paying for it, with interest stacked on top. That's bad debt. Payday loans take it even further. They're designed for short-term use, but the interest rates are so high that they trap people in a cycle. You borrow to solve a problem and end up with a bigger problem. That's not leverage, that's damage. Now pause for a second. Because this is where you need to shift how you think, most people evaluate debt emotionally. They think in terms of, can I afford the payment? That's the wrong question. The better question is, what is this costing me over time? And what am I getting in return? That's the difference between reacting and thinking strategically. Let's talk about the math behind this. Every time you take on debt, you're making a trade. You're paying interest in exchange for something. So the real question becomes, is what you're getting worth more than what it's costing you? If you borrow at a low interest rate and the outcome improves your financial position, that's working for you. If you borrow at a high interest rate for something that loses value immediately, that's working against you. And here's where it gets dangerous. Bad debt doesn't feel bad in the moment. It feels easy. It feels convenient. It feels manageable until it stacks. And once it stacks, it starts controlling your cash flow. Let me break that pattern for a second. Because this is where most people realize something. It's not one big decision that creates financial pressure. It's a series of small, reasonable decisions that add up. A balance here, a payment there, another expense layered on top. Individually, they don't seem like a problem. Together, they limit your options. And once your options are limited, your ability to build wealth slows down. That's the real impact of bad debt. So, before you take on any debt, you need a system, not a guess, not a feeling, a system. Start with your credit score. Your credit score directly impacts your interest rate, and your interest rate determines how expensive your decisions become. A higher score gives you access to better terms. A lower score means you pay more for the same thing. That alone can shift a decision from reasonable to risky. Next, run the numbers, and I mean actually run them. What's the monthly payment? How much interest will you pay over time? What does this do to your cash flow? If you don't know those answers, you're not making a decision. You're hoping things work out, and hope is not a strategy when it comes to debt. Now, here's the part most people skip: your safety net. If you don't have any savings, even a small, unexpected expense forces you into high-interest debt. That's how people end up relying on credit cards, not because they planned to, but because they had no buffer. So before you take on new debt, ask yourself one simple question. If something goes wrong next month, do I have a way to handle it without making this situation worse? If the answer is no, that's your signal to pause. Let's walk through a real scenario. Your car breaks down. You need $5,000 to fix it, and you need it now. No emergency fund, no savings. So, you reach for the fastest option, a credit card. You put the full amount on it. The minimum payment looks manageable. It doesn't feel like a big deal, but here's what actually happens. That balance starts collecting interest immediately. You make the minimum payment, but most of it goes toward interest, not the balance. So the debt barely moves. Months pass, then years. What started as a short-term fix turns into a long-term drain on your cash flow. Now, let's look at a better approach. Same situation. Same $5,000. But this time, you slow down just enough to evaluate your options. You check your credit score. You apply for a lower interest personal loan. Now you have a fixed payment, a clear timeline, an actual end date. You still took on debt, but now it's structured, predictable, and most importantly, temporary. That's the difference between reacting and managing. Here's another reality you need to understand. Good debt can become bad debt, and it usually happens because of overextension. You take on too much house. You finance a car that stretches your budget. You stack multiple debts that all seem manageable on their own, but together they create pressure. And once your income is locked into payments, you lose flexibility. You can't save consistently. You can't invest effectively. You're just maintaining your current position. That's when the structure fails. Let's bring this all together. Good debt builds, bad debt drains. Interest rate matters, return matters, cash flow matters. And your ability to manage the debt matters just as much as the debt itself. Before you borrow, slow down. Ask yourself what you're getting. Ask yourself what it's costing you. And ask yourself what this decision looks like 6 months from now, not just today. Because most financial problems don't come from lack of effort. They come from decisions that seemed small at the time. Understanding how to manage debt is critical. It protects your foundation. It keeps you from moving backward. But it's only one side of the system. Because avoiding bad debt doesn't automatically build wealth. You still need a plan for what to do with your money once you create that space. And that's where we're going next. Wealth building habits you should adopt starting today.